If you want to know who a man really is, don't watch how he treats you when he's happy. Watch how he handles his anger. The way a man handles his anger tells you everything you need to know about his emotional maturity, self-control, and most importantly, how deeply he respects you. Because anybody can love you when it's easy. When things are sweet, when you're laughing together, when everything's going right, but how he treats you when he's mad. That's the real test. That's the moment where all the fluff fades and his truest self steps forward. Psychologists call this emotional regulation under stress, the ability to manage your emotions when your nervous system is activated. And once you understand this, you'll see why a man's character isn't revealed in the good times. It's revealed when he's angry and you're vulnerable. Your safety, your self-worth, even your future with him, all of it depends on what he does with his anger. But here's where most women make a fatal mistake. If his first instinct when he's upset is to belittle you, ignore you, curse at you, bring up your insecurities, or give you silent treatment, like he's punishing you just for having a voice, that's not love. That's control. That's ego. That's a man who hasn't learned how to love someone through conflict, only in the absence of it. Most women excuse this behavior because he was just mad. But anger doesn't create cruelty, it reveals it. When someone is angry, their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking, temporarily goes offline. What remains is their core programming, their true values, their real character. But here's what separates boys from men. A real man? Even at his worst, he'll still handle you with care. Even if he's angry, he'll take a breath before he speaks. He'll communicate instead of attack. He'll say, "I need a minute," instead of saying something he'll regret. Because love doesn't disappear when emotions run high. If anything, that's when it's supposed to show up stronger. That's when respect becomes non-negotiable. That's when his commitment to you gets tested and either proven or exposed as conditional. Here's the psychological truth most people ignore. Anger is a secondary emotion. Underneath anger is almost always fear, hurt, or feeling out of control. A mature man recognizes this. He knows his anger is his responsibility to manage, not your burden to absorb. If you've been told you're too sensitive, after he exploded, if you've been blamed for his reaction to his own emotions, subscribe right now and comment below. One thing he said in anger that you will never forget. Because we're breaking down emotional abuse disguised as anger. Why he was just mad is never an excuse, and how to recognize when love stops being safe. This gets real. So don't let "he was just mad" be the excuse that makes you ignore a pattern. Because one day it's yelling. Next it's slamming doors. And eventually it's full-blown emotional damage that you're left to unpack alone. Abuse doesn't start with violence, it starts with disrespect during conflict. With words weaponized to hurt you where you're most vulnerable. Your mind wants to believe he didn't mean it, but the reality is people show you who they are when they're not performing. Anger strips away the mask. And if what's underneath that mask is cruelty, believe it the first time. If that hit you, good. It means you're stopping making excuses. Here's what you need to understand. Love should feel safe even in anger. If it doesn't, it's not the kind of love you deserve. A man who loves you doesn't use your insecurities as ammunition. He doesn't punish you with silence. He doesn't make you feel small to make himself feel big. He takes responsibility for his emotions. He communicates his frustration without attacking your character. He takes space when he needs it without making that space feel like abandonment. He apologizes when his anger crosses a line because he knows that being upset doesn't give him permission to be cruel. If you want to protect yourself, start with one non-negotiable truth. How he handles conflict tells you if he's safe to build a life with. Not how he handles success. Not how he treats you on good days. How he treats you when he's angry, stressed, or feeling attacked. Here's the shift that changes everything. Stop accepting he was just mad as justification for behavior you'd never tolerate from anyone else. Stop making his emotional regulation your responsibility. Stop staying with someone whose anger feels like punishment instead of communication. Because the right man doesn't lose respect for you when he loses his temper. He doesn't weaponize your vulnerabilities when he's upset. He doesn't make you feel like you're walking on eggshells, wondering what version of him you'll get today. The right man takes a breath, steps away if he needs to, comes back when he's regulated, speaks his frustration without destroying your sense of safety, and apologizes when he crosses a line, not because you demanded it, but because he respects you too much to let anger become abuse. That's not perfection. That's baseline. That's the bare minimum of emotional maturity required to be in a healthy relationship. And if the man you're with can't meet that standard, you're not in love, you're in survival mode. So stop romanticizing his intensity. Stop excusing his outbursts as passion. Stop accepting emotional terrorism as just how he is when he's mad. Because love doesn't hurt. Anger that respects you doesn't leave scars. And if you're constantly recovering from his anger instead of resolving conflict with him, you're not in a relationship. You're in a cycle. And that cycle won't change until you decide you deserve better. You do. Even when he's mad. Especially when he's mad.